What is doubt? Ooh, not the topic I thought I was going to talk with you about this week. And I almost didn't. As a matter of fact, I was woken up in the middle of the night last night, struggling with a bout of doubt. And I knew I was going to be talking to you all this morning, and I had already had a topic planned, and as a matter of fact, it had something to do with the richness of belief and faith in God. And I was tempted to come on to this video and to talk about something that in my heart was not settled. Because instead of talking about belief and trust, I needed to come to you and to be honest with the fact that last night I had a bout with doubt. And here's why I felt compelled to center our talk this week around doubt. It's because I see in the church two extremes. When it comes to doubt, I grew up in a context on this extreme, which we never talked about doubt. We pretended doubt didn't exist, and if it did exist, it was evidence that you were not being faithful. But then there's this other extreme. This extreme that as I was getting into college and into my first full-time ministry, this extreme that almost was in vogue, this extreme that was almost this intensifying fad, that if you had doubt, it was evidence that you had a deep faith, that you now were truly arriving at a faith that would rival Peter or any of the apostles. Let me just start off this week by saying this. Both extremes are unhealthy. And I think what it is we need to do is to have a better definition of doubt. The passage that came to my mind this morning as I was wrestling with doubt comes from Mark chapter 9. We're going to center in on verse 24, but let me kind of run it up to the passage so that we kind of get into a flow. Mark chapter 8, you have Peter proclaiming Jesus as the Messiah, which is followed immediately by Jesus predicting his own death, and then speaking about the way of a disciple is to follow the cross. Then Jesus has the transfiguration in verses 2 through 13 of chapter 9. And when Jesus comes down from the transfiguration with the inner three of the disciples, he is met by a crowd of teachers of the law that is arguing with his disciples. And when Jesus investigates further, he finds this father with a son who is possessed by a spirit that has robbed him of speech, by a spirit that seizes him and throws him into fire and into water, who causes him to foam at the mouth, to gnash his teeth, to become rigid. And when Jesus asks the father how long this has been, in verse 21, the father tells him since he was born, since childhood, the spirit has tried to destroy him. And then the father says this in verse 22. He says, if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us. My goodness. As a father, there's nothing more overwhelming than not being able to take care of the problems and the pains of my children. I can only imagine what it is that is going through this father's mind and heart. If you can do anything, take pity on us and help us. And Jesus' response is interesting. He says, if you can do anything? He says, everything is possible for one who believes. Immediately, verse 24, the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief. What an incredibly honest response. He could have pretended. He could have pretended and told Jesus, oh, I do believe. So is that enough? Will that overcome? Is that the cure? Is this the code that'll crack the case? Instead, he looks at Jesus and he says, I do believe, but I'm struggling with doubt. That line almost verbatim is what was going through my heart and mind last night. And I'll be honest with you, throughout my life, I have struggled with deep bouts of doubt. Dark toiling, where at times I don't even know which way is up. Now, this is dangerous to say out loud because some people then will follow it up with accusations of X, Y, and Z, or some people will think that this is the way forward. No, listen, I'm trying to share with you my heart so that you and I can connect around this one question. What is doubt? Because one of the things I find interesting is that this honest expression of belief and doubt, this tension of I do believe, but help me with my unbelief, is not met by Jesus saying, well, come back to me when you believe more. Come back to me when your doubt is gone. Come back to me when you have fixed your problem, and then I will address your son. No, how does Jesus respond? He immediately rebukes the spirit, casting out the demonic presence. And the boy is described as looking as though he is dead, yet resurrected to Jesus with his hand. All because of a father's tension between faith and doubt. This is the reason why I love the Psalms. The Psalms are such an honest expression of wrestling in the tension of belief and unbelief, of wrestling in the tension of obedience and disobedience. Like Psalm 77. Will the Lord reject forever? Will he never show his favor again? Has his unfailing love vanished forever? Has his promise failed for all time? Has God forgotten to be merciful? Has he in anger withheld his compassion? Here's why I love this. This is a psalm that is sung in their worship services, an honest expression of the questions that plague us in the middle of the night. What is doubt? Doubt is a reminder that we were made to be one with truth. Doubt is a craving. Doubt is a desire. Doubt is a reminder to me that I was not made for this distance between God and us. I was made for union with him. I was made for his presence. And when doubt arises, all it reminds me of is the thirst, is the hunger, is the desire to draw close to the Lord. Sure, it comes in times of deserts. Sure, it comes at unpredictable moments. But when doubt comes, I don't merely try to force and usher it out as an unwanted guest. I try to embrace it as a reminder that I have a deep desire, because of the image of God in me, to return to the one in whose image I have been created. This week, I'm not going to encourage you to doubt. I'm going to encourage you to pay attention to the craving for the Lord, that at times reminds us of its presence through doubt. I love you guys. Talk to you next week.